incense burning, some of my favorite morning star. I love the morning star. It's a Japanese incense. And some of you might be thinking, why are you burning incense outside? Hey, if you have the right angle, blows right at you. Life is good. Let's test the wind out. Using the mic as a wind shield. And we got the celery juice to cleanse. We've been cleansing with lemon juice and celery juice last couple mornings, and it's been incredible. I had no idea how much fecal matter was blocked in my system. It's incredible. It's incredible how much lies within you. You don't even know it. So these two, just by themselves, have made me, go to the outdoor restroom plenty of times. So I've been contemplating stress. And stress itself is really a perception. I thought if everybody knew this on a deep level, then how much suffering would be relieved? And one of my teachers, Dr. Hawkins, mentions that stress is really just how you perceive something, such as if you're listening to loud music and you really want to listen to loud music, it's great. The loud music is thumping, you're dancing, and you're getting it. But then you think about it the other way. On the other side of that, which is if you just had a long day and you don't want it, then it becomes stress because it's something that you don't desire. So in the middle of all of this, there has to lie some sense of the thing outside of you doesn't need to change. It's how you interpret it that will help you to relieve your own suffering. So for me, that's so complete when it comes to living this life out of this rooftop tent and living on the road. There's not always the quiet environment. Even when you're out here in Sedona in this beautiful environment, it's not. There's people around, there's razors flying by. And so I'm really relearning the art of meditation, because meditation, at the beginning, I really did think that meditation was this thing that you did in order to feel good, and then you would feel good for the rest of the day. But really, it's actually a way of living. So your whole life becomes that meditation. And I don't think this is talked about enough. Because when we, in meditation, learn to observe the thoughts, we just observe them, we don't identify with them. Then when certain thought patterns come up of we're not worthy, or we are this or that, even good things, we don't identify with them. Because when we start to identify with our thoughts, then it's, I'm good one second, and then the next second, I'm not. Because the thought is the thing that determines whether we're good or not. But on a deeper underlying level, you can be good no matter what, but it starts with learning to live life through a meditation. Because what is enlightenment? Enlightenment is surrendering everything, right? Everything that, every positionalities of your ego, all the positionalities and all of the belief systems, and you return back to purity, so to speak. And it really isn't a becoming, because you were already pure. You are always pure. It's just you take the clothes off. You take the clothes of Nick off, or you take the clothes of yourself off, whoever you think you are. And that's really what meditation does. And this is why in the Bhagavad Gita, which I've been contemplating, which, by the way, calibrates at enlightenment on Dr. Hawkins' map of consciousness, it really drives home the point that meditation is one of the keys to releasing yourself from suffering. Because in meditation, we learn to drop the thoughts. And that way, we don't become what they say that we are. And because we were never that. It's just a holding on. And it has really become apparent to me that all of life is really just a holding on if you're suffering. And it seems to the ego that if you let go of even being the person, well, who are you? Right? It doesn't feel safe. But that's the trick. Because when you truly let go or surrender what you think you know, you find that on the other side of that is this beautiful essence of allness, of oneness, of non-duality. But you can't get to it while you're separate. So it's this paradox. And that's why trusting and faith is at the epitome of spirituality. Because when you make that jump from logic and reasoning, which is around 499 is the end of logic and reasoning, to 500, which is love. Love is not provable. You can't prove that logically you love somebody. You can try by saying, I love you because I gave you these things, but the nonlinear reality, the domain that exists, is a jump that you can only make through faith, through surrendering, or through what meditation teaches us, which is to let go of the thoughts, that they might exist, that even though you're in the consciousness of love, logic and reasoning still exist, but you're just not identified with it, and you can let it come and go. Because you know that some things in life, especially when you're spiritual, don't make sense. And that's really hard to explain to somebody who's very logical, because that's how our society raised us. Most of society. And so when we jump out of that paradigm of logic and reasoning, or even the lower paradigms of pride, and I'm prideful to be this way because this is the right way to live, we see that on one of the higher levels, that all of evolution is just playing out, and we're participating. And that we can only control our own evolution. And I've found in my own personal reality that one of the best ways to help people that are suffering is to be in such a high state that they receive your energy. They receive the love that you're outpouring. So you can still be logical, but be logical from a place of love. See, these are the two, the linear and the nonlinear. Because when you're the whole field of love, imagine love in an electromagnetic universe is a field. It's an all-encompassing field that surrounds us. Well, if you become the whole field, then you're not linear. Like, you're not going like from this part of the field to this part of the field. You become the whole field. And that's interesting because we think, again, we have to sacrifice. We have to let go, and that's a bad thing. But your ego has a really hard time understanding that letting go of the separate self to become the whole field, you essentially become that which you're searching for. Because when you're the separate self, you want a nicer thing, you want nicer that, you want more fancy, or maybe you don't want that. Maybe you just want happiness. Maybe you just want peace or joy. It really comes down to, on the deepest level, what are you searching for? And we find that we want these things because we're going to enjoy them, or we think we are. But a lot of the times when we get them, we don't really enjoy them as much because we're getting a separate part. We're getting a fractal, really, of the whole thing. And so just imagine, like on this incense holder, you're only experiencing one petal, right? You're not experiencing the whole thing. And we think a lot of the times that when we get to love, it's conditional love, and that's one part of the petal. That's not the whole thing. So then we have to jump even further into unconditional love. And it's interesting. So meditation, again, brings us to this place of deep contemplation, that actually a quote that really resonates with me is that people don't need help, they need love. Because love is the alchemizer, love is the healer. And that is just so powerful to realize, because then even when your friends are struggling or you're struggling, do you need help or do you just need love? Or want it to raise your level of consciousness? So in the darkness, the thing that gets us out is the light. But on another level, we find that light and love is physical matter. It is the thing that holds everything together. It's an intelligent pattern. It's intelligent infinity is the pattern. And when we have this full pattern, when we are the pattern itself, not as a fractal, but we become it, then we can see the whole picture. Because as a separate self, we just can't see the whole picture. So, contemplate meditating, but not meditating to feel good. Not meditating for any other reason, but maybe just try, even if you wanted to have a reason, you just do it to start listening. And then when you start listening to your thoughts, you see that they just keep coming. They just keep, the conceptual mind just keeps coming over and over. And then at some point, this mind has to be surrendered. And if you don't want to surrender it now, that's fine. Because life is going to lead you towards love. And one of the greatest catalysts for life to lead you back up that spiral vector up to love is finding that when you suffer, it is your greatest opportunity. And how else would the universe teach you unless you were suffering? You see, some of us can learn by finding others that are doing things that we really want to be like. So then we try to be like those people, the great avatars or gurus of the world. We try to be like them. And then that's a brilliant way to learn. But if you really, really dig deep, we find that we will continue to suffer until we decide that enough is enough. And that I'm willing to jump. And that might not be in this lifetime for some, your friends, your relatives. But I have a hunch that if you're watching this, then it's within your life path to make that jump into love and then to live from a place of love. But that doesn't mean that you're just gone. Because we find if the levels of consciousness is a logarithmic scale, then on a high level, we could actually make more of an impact through our energy than we could at all through trying to go on social media and help people or trying to do these things. That actually your state of being is the thing that will affect you the most and others the most. And in the end, it really just dawned on me recently that the world is trying to get back to love. But people are being tricked by their ego thinking that being prideful is loving, because each level of consciousness thinks it's loving. So we find that if we want to relieve ourselves of suffering, if we want to just live a happy life, that's available. And that when we learn to observe our thoughts, we find that even deeper, that what causes us to suffer is our thoughts. That reality doesn't necessarily cause us to suffer, because we find that even in the hardest situations, there's love available. And it's very, very hard at some points. But even it's equally possible, if you're interpreting pain as negative, that you can interpret it as positive. Because if you're in that place, it's always available. So when we know that peace is always available, not because you have something or because you're doing these things, because our vibration will naturally raise if we learn to not identify that which causes us suffering. Because if we don't suffer, then we naturally will return to a high vibration. Because everything around us is divinity. Everything around us is love. So then when we stop saying we're separate, we're this person, because we want these things, we actually just take the fast route. And you can all day try to find these things, like get this nice person or be in this relationship or get this food or whatever it might be that you want. And then you'll realize, oh, that actually isn't what I wanted. That I wanted to find true love. And some people might get caught in the illusions of conditional love, and that's absolutely fine. But there is a fast track that's always available to you. And if you're suffering right now, or when you suffer, remember this. Remember that you can take the fast track. That you don't have to go through this process of going down and suffering. You can listen to your emotions that come up. You can listen to these emotions. But remember that they are just energy in motion. That's why they're called emotions. Energy motion. See, it's not meant to stay. We don't have to go through this deep trauma process. We can, but we find that a lot of the times what the trauma is lacking is love, even after the situation. If you were abused and you're out of it now, if you want to heal that trauma, what does it take? It takes you finding love even for the situation. Because when you forgive somebody, you're not really forgiving them. You're forgiving yourself. You're releasing yourself of that bondage of holding on to negativity or holding on to a grudge. And when no resentment is justified, when we really understand that, we escape into freedom. We escape into love, but it's not like escaping like it's not okay to be there. It's absolutely okay to be where you are, but on another level. Who wants to suffer? Right? Nobody wants to suffer. No sane person wants to suffer. They just want to find their way back to love. So even those people that seem lost in society, they're just trying to find their way to love, but they might not know how to do it. And is it your responsibility to help them? No, not necessarily. But can you help them? Absolutely. Because each being is on their own evolution, is playing their own game. And then when we want to truly understand even our own game, then we understand free will. Free will allows other beings to do as they wish, and it allows us to do as we wish. So if they want to continually perpetuate their own suffering, hey, okay. And then we step into our own essence. And we realize that each being is like a wave on the ocean. How big a wave they want to be to where they stay up as long as they want, they can. But we find that everything is just seeking love. So if it's just seeking love, then that wave, you can go back into that ocean at any point. But it's a jump. That's why meditation is key, because the jump will allow us to jump into love, into faith, into trust, even when it doesn't seem like it's a good thing to do. And that if you trust and if you love, it will never let you down. Unless there's a condition. See, true love will never let you down. Because even if you love somebody who's not loving towards you, is it going to hurt you? No. Will it hurt them? No. They might think that it's hurting them because they're so far away from love. So meditation will teach us this. Will teach us to not identify with those things that come and go, those emotions that just flow through us. And we can return back to our loving awareness that resides within our soul. And when we do this, we drop the bags, we drop the clothes, we take the clothes off, we return to purity in our body. Not that it's not our body, of course, but see, there's a lot of paradoxes here, so you gotta wind your way through. We return back to the purity which we knew, which is really just a higher vibration. And it's not like the lower vibration is not pure. It's actually more like it's just slower. Like if you think about sound waves, right? You're going like this with a sound wave. It's literally a wave. So at a higher vibration, really what I'm referring to as purity is that your soul is already at a naturally high vibration. It's already up here. So it's very dense in that really impurity doesn't exist on a high level. But what does exist is just vibration. So meditation will bring us back to this place of a naturally high vibration by releasing the hold of the thoughts that are causing us suffering. Contemplate this. Your soul takes a percentage of itself into a life. Like you in the spirit world exist at, let's say, 30% of it. And that in reality, you currently have 70% of your soul is incarnated. Well, your higher self is really just your 30% that hasn't been tainted. So when we meditate, we actually can connect to that 30% that can see, because it's a part of the whole field, and it can clearly see that it is more. When we meditate, we can start to drop the egotistical survival mechanisms, and then we can tune into our higher self. But we can't really tune into our higher self if we're too focused on what the ego has to say on surviving. You see, in order to connect to our higher self, that 30% that of you that isn't really higher, it's really just in the spirit world, it's in a different dimension, and it's residing there. We can connect, and we are always connected to that, but we can just listen, right? We can start tuning that radio, or changing the website that we're on, however you want to think of it. Subscribe to a different channel by going over to our own guidance within. That's why everybody has their own guidance. And that's how everybody has their own guidance, because there's always a part of your soul that is in the spirit world, and it has access to all the infinite knowledge. So we tune into that through meditation. We tune into that through realizing that we don't need to hold on any longer to these lower level thought forms of, I need to have this or that, and then I'll feel good. Because that and then is always going to keep playing, and then never ends. But what ends the and then is realizing that right now you can decide in an instant to be that vibration which you're waiting to feel when you get something. And then when you have that feeling of wholeness, that is your ticket to your higher self. That's your ticket to connecting to divinity. Because divinity is whole and complete, and it's almost like the ticket to get into the show is feeling whole and complete. Because when you're whole and complete, there's no separateness. And then you can access all of this knowledge, all of this love that exists that you have just forgotten. So meditate to start channeling something different besides your thoughts. Because your thoughts are not the ultimate reality, and the ultimate reality actually exists beyond thought. But we're just trying to tune right now to something different, to your soul, to your higher self. And you do that through love. By loving even that which you don't think deserves it. And when you can do this is it. That's the game. You've mastered the game. Now that I chugged this, time to go do some yoga, time to relax.